Heyo! Welcome to the Team SNG deck profile. Today we're going to be talking about Trickstar Link spam. Now this does run another engine in it as well, which is quite exciting, and we'll get to that when we get to that. First, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Do leave us a like, comment, and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. And while I've got your attention, I'd like you to check out the team's Facebook page. Link to that will be down in the description below. Also, you can still vote for which decks you would like to see in the upcoming Team SNG Championship Series. Now what this is it's a bunch of deck profiles that have been featured on the channel getting a chance to shine. 4 decks have already been selected, but the remaining 4 slots are up to you. So go down below, click the SurveyMonkey link, and check that out as well. Now, what this deck does is this deck's whole theme is actually to utilize the Trickstars the way that the anime intended for them to be utilized. Going into Link spam, putting out lots of Link 2s, Link 3s, Link 4s, and basically flooding the field with a lot of monsters that do burn effects in different ways. This is done through the ability to swarm the field that Trickstars do unintentionally possess, along with all of the field spells that help them plus from the graveyard or from the deck. So that being said, let's just get into it. The first Trickstar monster that we run is Trickstar Nightshade. Now Nightshade's a bit of an interesting choice. She doesn't typically see a lot of play, and that's why we only run 1 copy of her. What she can do is if she's sent to the graveyard as link material, she special summons herself straight back to the field, meaning that she is effectively a 1-card Holly Angel, which is the generic Link 2 you're typically going to go into right away. Also, when she leaves the field, she is then banished, which does mean that you can utilize her to go into Holly Angel, banishing her, and later you can utilize Delphendium, which we do also run, bringing her back to your hand for use again later, while also powering up Delphendium by 1,000 attack. So, Trickstar Nightshade is a bit of an interesting card. I really do like her, seeing as we do utilize the Link monsters for the Trickstars. Next, we run 2 copies of Trickstar Lilybell. Trickstar Lilybell has the effect that when it is added to your hand, special summon it. Also, it can attack your opponent directly, and when it inflicts battle damage, you can target 1 Trickstar monster in your graveyard and add it back to your hand. So this is a way that you can re-up your resources, you can gain them back from the grave, but on top of that, it really is just a very useful way of spamming the field. You're going to search her using Cantina or Light Stage, you're gonna add her back using Live Stage. There's lots of different ways to get her bonus effect of being able to special summon herself. Lycoris can special summon her by bouncing her back to hand to special summon Lycoris and then special summon her. So there's lots of different ways you can utilize Lilybell, and I really love having Lilybell in the deck at 2. Next, we run another odd choice for the Trickstar engine, and that is 2 copies of Trickstar Mandrake. Trickstar Mandrake, when it is sent from the hand to the grave, you can special summon it. It will then banish itself when it leaves the field. So we do run a few cards that will let us send cards from hand to grave, so that's really useful. But the real benefit behind this is that, again, much like with Nightshade, when she's banished, she can be utilized for Delphendium. So she can basically be utilized as an extender from the graveyard, but at the same time, she can be utilized to help us go into power plays using Delphendium if we need to push for game that way. Next, we run something a little more standard, but we only run 2 copies, and that is 2 copies of Trickstar Lycoris. Trickstar Lycoris is an interesting card. It does burn damage every time your opponent adds a card to their hand for each card they add to their hand, and it also can, as a quick effect, let you add something from your field back to your hand to special summon herself. So she basically helps your cards dodge effects. In a typical build, she would be the way that you would utilize the burn damage that the Trickstar monsters can put out on the field. Next, we run 2 copies of Trickstar Narcissus. Narcissus is another extender for us. Whenever we do burn damage, she will allow us to special summon herself. While she is on the field, each time your opponent activates a monster effect in hand or in grave, she will burn your opponent for 200 points of damage. So again, she helps you get the whole burn engine going, but she also can protect you from hand traps a little bit, because when your opponent activates a hand trap, she will burn them for 200. Next, something a little more standard, 3 copies of the deck's main searcher, Trickstar Candina. When this card is normal summoned, search out a Trickstar card, add it to your hand. Also, every time your opponent activates a spell or trap, you get to deal 200 damage to your opponent. And then we run probably the best Trickstar monster in the game, and that is 3 copies of Trickstar Corbane. Now, this is definitely a debatable fact. I think Corbane has got to be one of the best monsters in the game. Her ability to special summon herself if you control only Trickstar monsters, her ability to act as an Honest in hand for your Trickstars by helping them gain attack points. They're all extremely valuable skills that she has. You can special summon her, add her back to the hand using something like Lycoris. You can use her as link material. She's got all these different uses that this deck can definitely utilize. So that does it for the Trickstar monsters. The next monster we run is 2 copies of Honest. Honest is a fantastic card for us. Everything we run is light, so everything really gains a big bonus off of Honest. Being able to basically make him so that we can destroy anything our opponent puts on the field is really useful. Now for our little spicy tech. Seeing as we are using the Trickstars as a link engine more than just a generic burn engine, we do sometimes find ourselves bricking a little bit because the Trickstars aren't super good at being a link engine, even though that was what they seem to be designed for based on the anime. So we do run Herald of Perfection. Now we run 2 copies of him. Basically, he's an Omni Negate at the cost of a fairy monster from the hand. Now this can be really useful if you were to, say, send Mandrake with Herald of Perfection's effect, because then you also plus by gaining Mandrake onto the field. So there are these little things you can do to gain benefits from Herald of Perfection, but at the end of the day, Herald of Perfection is here just because it acts as an Omni Negate to shut down our opponents and give us an extra body on board and the ability to maybe stop our opponents from being able to make plays. And that does it for our monsters. On to the spells. The first spell that we run is 3 copies of Magical Laurel. Trickstar Magical Laurel is such a good card for us. It is a monster reborn that equips itself to the monster it reborns. And if that monster was to inflict battle or effect damage, you can special summon a Trickstar monster from your graveyard. So it helps you put more bodies on board, which can be really useful for us, because we can then utilize those bodies to go into the link engine. If it leaves the field, the monster it's equipped to will be destroyed. So we do kind of have to be a little wary of things like Twin Twisters, but at the end of the day, this is such a good extender for us. Being able to bring back something like Holly Angel, or to bring back something like Divardis, or any of the other link monsters that we utilize, is so good. Next, we run one of Trickstar Light Stage. Search out any Trickstar monster from the deck, add it to the hand. Really useful. Also, we can lock down a spell or trap that is face down on our opponent's side of the field, and send it to the graveyard during the end phase if our opponent can't activate it. And finally, we can inflict an additional 200 damage anytime burn damage is inflicted to our opponent. Next, we run 2 copies of Trickstar Light Arena. Trickstar Light Arena will allow us to special summon a link material that was used for a link summon of a Trickstar monster back to the field. We can only do this once per turn, but it does allow us to continue to extend, and if we use a link 2 to go into a link 3, and we special summon back the link 2, we have additional materials on board based on the way that the link engine works. Also, we can target a set spell or trap. Our opponent can't activate it until the end phase. If they don't activate it in the end phase, it gets spun back to their hand. The final field spell that we run is the aforementioned Trickstar Live Stage. Now for this deck is probably the best field spell we can run. What this does is this allows us to create tokens for different things. Initially, when it's activated, we get to add a Trickstar monster from the graveyard back to our hand. So using Live Stage to recur our Lilybell will allow us to special summon our Lilybell and use it as link material. If we control a Trickstar Link monster, we produce a token, which is also a really valuable thing because that can be used as link material. If our opponent controls a spell or trap card, we produce a token. So this produces tokens for us that we can then use as link material to climb into our bigger link monsters. Now, seeing as we're running 5 field spells, it doesn't make sense to not run Terraforming. We run 1 copy because we can only run 1, but it lets us search out whichever field spell we might need to be able to make the best plays we can. Now, we also run 1 for 1. Nightshade being a 1-card Holly Angel is really valuable to us, and if we can get Holly Angel on the field without using a single normal summon, that can be really good because we can utilize our normal summon later in the turn so as to get something like Candina normal summoned and get the search off of that. Now, seeing as we do run 2 copies of Herald of Perfection, we also run 2 copies of Pre-Preparation of Rites. And that is to help us search out Herald of Perfection, but also to search out Dawn of the Herald. This is the ritual spell for Herald of Perfection. It acts as any other ritual spell, except you do need to exactly meet the level, which is 6. That's not too hard for this deck, seeing as we run a lot of level 4s, a lot of level 2s, and not very many level 3s, but we do run a variety of levels, making it a definite possibility. Also, the benefit that this has is you do get to banish this card from the graveyard and special summon a monster that was tributed for the ritual summon of the Herald of Perfection, meaning that we do actually recur the resources that go into our Herald. That does it for our spell cards. On to the traps. We do run a fair few traps in this deck. First of all, Trickstar Reincarnation. Now, I don't run the Droll and Lockbird combo because I honestly think that is well and truly degenerate. I hate that combo. I think it's such an awful thing, but it is good, which is why people do it. I'm not disparaging that, but I definitely don't like it, so I just run Trickstar Reincarnation. The ability to get stuff back from the graveyard is really valuable for this deck because we can utilize it to go into our bigger link monsters, and that's why I love this card. The other benefit is we totally throw our opponent's strategy out the window by banishing everything that they have face down. Seeing as this deck focuses on dealing burn damage, we utilize Blazing Mirror Force. It's just a really good card. We can get our opponents in some tight spaces, potentially, utilizing burn damage, and then Blazing Mirror Force will put us in a situation where we can potentially burn our opponents for whatever's left if they attempt to attack, and at the same time, it also does just protect our field that we managed to establish. Finally, we run 2 copies of Parallel Port Armor. This is basically just a really useful thing for protecting our Holly Angel or any of our link monsters that are really valuable to us because our opponent can't target them with card effects and the equipped monster can't be destroyed by battle. Theoretically, if you could get this on the field with a Holly Angel and you get a lot of burn damage going, your opponent's going to have to try and run over that Holly Angel by battle, and the Holly Angel gets bigger and bigger the more burn damage we manage to inflict. And that does it for the main deck. On to the extra deck. So the extra deck is, as you can guess, primarily Trickstar Link monsters. The first Link monster we run is Trickstar Bloom. Honestly, the only reason we're running this is its partnership with Nightshade. Basically, we can link off Nightshade for this, special summon back Nightshade, link this and Nightshade off to go into our Link 2s. The first of which is 3 copies of the most important Link monster in the deck, Holly Angel. It has an effect that makes it burning our opponent quite easy, but it also has the ability to protect anything it points to. So that can be really valuable for us in the sense that it does allow us to protect something that we can put underneath it. That could be our big boss monster in Bella Madonna, or it could be our smaller monsters like Divardis or Foxglove Witch, which we also run in the extra deck. The other thing is, every time we inflict burn damage, this card gains attack equal to the burn damage that we inflict. Now, that damage does need to come from a Trickstar monster. It can't come from something like Blazing Mirror Force. So that's perfectly fine. All our Trickstar monsters that we're typically going to leave on the field will inflict burn damage, so that's fine with us. Next, we run the aforementioned Trickstar Divardis. This is probably my favorite card. It's really nice to get this set up underneath a Holly Angel, because every time your opponent special summons a monster, they take 200 damage. You partner that up with a Holly Angel. Your opponent has to find a way to get rid of Holly Angel before they can get rid of this. And to get rid of Holly Angel, especially by battle, they're likely going to have to do multiple special summons, because Holly Angel is going to be 2,000 attack. The first time they special summon, she'll be 2,200, because this will burn her for 2. The next time they special summon, Holly Angel will be 24. And so Holly Angel becomes this insurmountable thing that they need to get rid of before they can get rid of this, and this is going to burn them every time that they try to get closer to getting rid of Holly Angel, and so you can end up with this nice little cycle that goes on that can basically put them in a situation where they're likely to burn themselves out. Next is Trickstar Crimson Heart. Now this is a bit of a weird one. Typically you don't need this early on. This is more of a late game play if you find yourself in the grind. This allows us to have some draw power. Every time you normal or special summon a monster to a zone it points to, you and your opponent get to draw a card. If you have 2,000 more life points than your opponent, you get to draw 2 cards, meaning that you get the additional draw. Your opponent does get to draw a card, which is kind of and it's the real drawback to this. However, you getting to draw 2 cards can definitely help in the grind game later on. Next we run 1 copy of Trickstar Black Cat Bat. This is sort of weird, it's a bit niche. Every time that your opponent takes damage by a Trickstar monster's effect, all the monsters on their side of the field will lose attack equal to 200 times the monsters this card points to. So theoretically, if you ended up with like a Holly Angel pointing to this and you managed to produce 2 tokens either side of this, you could, every time your opponent takes damage, lower their monster's attacks by 400. So that could be one way that you can utilize stuff to inflict your damage to your opponent. However, Black Cat Bat really is niche, and so I don't find myself going into her that often. She is here to give us the versatility and some options, however. That does it for the Link 2s. The next Link monster we run is Trickstar Delphendium. This is more a push for game kind of card. Later on in the game, if you've found yourself with a couple banished Trickstar monsters, such as Nightshade or Mandrake, you can utilize this to get some hand advantage back, and also increase this monster's attack by 1,000 for each monster you've added back to your hand. So it can basically help you push for game. It can also be a problem later in the game for your opponent to get rid of if you've managed to keep their board small. And the final Link 3 that we run is 2 copies of Trickstar Foxglove Witch. This is such a good card for this deck. When this card is special summoned, you inflict 200 damage to your opponent for each card that they control. So this is basically all the cards on the field, they take 200 points of damage for every single one. And that's when it's special summoned, not when it is link summoned. Then if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, you get to special summon a Link 2 or lower Trickstar monster from your extra deck. So she floats into something else, and you can basically bring her back using something like Magical Laurel later on and inflict more damage to your opponent utilizing her. The final Trickstar Link monster that we run is the big boss monster for the deck, and that is Trickstar Bella Madonna. Now, she takes 2+ Trickstar monsters. She's a Link 4 with 2,800 attack. If this card points to no monsters, it is unaffected by other card effects. So this can be really valuable. It's not hard to have this point to no other monsters. You just need to put this in the zone next to the graveyard. That way she can never point to any other monsters, meaning that she is unaffected by all of the card effects. Such a good card. On top of that, once per turn, you can inflict 200 damage to your opponent for each Trickstar monster in your graveyard with a different name. So she really is the big push for game card. Later on in the game, you're typically going to get her on the field turn 2. If you can get her on your field on your second turn, you have pretty much guaranteed a victory, because you're going to now put her in a situation where she's unaffected by card effects potentially, and she is going to burn your opponent for 2,000 damage right away. You combine that with something like a Holly Angel. Holly Angel now gains an additional 2,000 attack points, and then between her and Holly Angel, you should be running over your opponent for the rest of the damage that they have. If not, hey, she's still going to sit there and do burn damage the next turn if your opponent can't get rid of her. Now we do run some other link cards just to help out. The first is Herald of Mirage of Lights. Now this is a Link 2 monster. It just requires 2 monsters with the same type and attribute, except for tokens. So that does become important in this deck. When a spell or trap card is activated on your opponent's side of the field, you can quick effect discard a fairy from your hand to negate it. This means that all of your Trickstar monsters and all of your fairy monsters in your hand become a negate on your opponent's side of the field. Also, if this card is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card, you can add up to 2 ritual monsters and or spells with different names from your graveyard to your hand. Meaning, if you've managed to go into Herald of Perfection and lose your Herald of Perfection, you can utilize this card to recur it and its ritual spell. So that can be really useful for us. Well, the final link to that we run is Barricade Borg Blocker. Basically, it just helps us search out our field spells and protect them. Typically, we don't want to go into this. We'd much rather go into our Trickstar links, but this does give us the ability to at least find something if we are in a bricky hand situation. The other thing is it will protect our magical laurels if we do have them on the field. Then we run 2 Link 4s just to help us push for game. These are Mech Knight, Crusadia Avermax, and Borosword. So typically you're actually going to find yourself going into these rather than Bella Madonna, because they are just better game-ending cards. However, I like Bella Madonna just because it's within the theme. And that does it for the extra deck. So, at the end of the day, what do I think about this deck? Well, look, it's not going to go and win any major competitions. It's a fun deck. Its ability to utilize different Trickstar monsters to go into their links is really interesting. It's a different way of utilizing the Trickstar engine. I much prefer it this way, because at least it is sort of the way the deck was intended to be played, or at least it feels like it was. These monsters here are all extremely valuable. This is a Holly Angel on its own. This is just an extender for the deck. This searches everything out. And this is basically a hand trap, but also it can be an extender if we need it to be. These are all really valuable things for the deck. The ability to utilize the different field spells the Trickstars have access to can also help us extend, as well as help us put our opponents in some tight situations by dealing either extra burn damage or locking out certain spells and traps, or just punishing our opponents for leaving stuff on the field in the case of something like Trickstar Live Stage. The ability to recur from the graveyard using Magical Laurel and Trickstar Reincarnation is very valuable as well. And the ability to utilize the Link engine, which we'll always have access to put our opponents back to the wall by stopping them from special summoning, can be really good. Also, we do find ourselves with some big hitters in the way of burn damage in things like our Trickstar Foxglove Witch and our Trickstar Bella Madonna. These cards can be extremely valuable to the deck, and they do give us the ability to potentially push our opponents up against a wall and make them question how much they want to have on the field, or, in the case of Divardis, how far they want to extend to try and break our board. That all being said, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Do not forget, vote for the decks you want to see. Unfortunately, this deck will not be making it into the SNG Championship Series. If I get enough comments saying that you guys would like it there, I'll count every comment on this video saying you'd like it in the SNG Championship Series as a vote for this deck. Meaning, it does have a chance, but I'm not adding it to the survey this late. It wouldn't be fair to the other decks that have been on there. Check out the team's Facebook page for news about what's coming out soon. And finally, I'd like to say I'll see you guys at the next video.